We're gonna go ahead and get started though. We have a lot of content for you guys. We're gonna try to move quickly. So in an effort to move quickly, you will see in front of you Post-it notes. That's part of the interactivity I warned some of you about. If you have anything that comes to mind that you would like to suggest, ask a question about, make a comment or a recommendation on, because we're going to go through some product updates and look at some cool features coming out and some fascinating things that have been going on behind the scenes. Feel free to take a note on the Post-it notes and keep it at the table. And at the end, you can put it on our big sheets of recommendations or questions or concerns. And we would love to receive that feedback, hear it from you. And if you want to be contacted, just make sure you drop an email on there for us. Or tell us who you are, what school you're from, because your partner engagement manager will absolutely reach out. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Rachel Mapes.
Perfect. And I'm going through the team slides, right?
You are.
Okay. I just wanted to do a quick introduction to you all. So I'm Rachel Mapes. I'm the Chief of Education and Partner Success here at Parsec. Just by way of quick introduction, I do want to share a little bit about my background. And the reason is because I think it's important as educators to know the space and lens that we're coming into the conversation with, but then also that we as a team understand the roles that you've held and the work that you're doing and the importance of it, because a significant number of us have either been in those roles ourselves or are very passionate about and coming alongside of those who have been in the roles. So just really quickly, I was a former high school English teacher, and then I served as a consultant under No Child Left Behind, worked with schools in program improvement, served the continuum of K-12, so did teaching in kindergarten all the way up through 12th grade. Then I was a principal of an elementary school, loved it, tons of hugs, one of the best jobs ever. And then I served as a superintendent of a small school district. Then I went on to be the senior director of a county office of education, where I served as the geo lead, but then also did all of their work around the local control and accountability plan, and then designed their differentiated assistance model. And then went on to serve as a task force for the state, and then the county office lead that trained the rest of the county offices. Then I transitioned into a role as the deputy superintendent of public instruction for the California Department of Education, where I oversaw statewide assessments, accountability, curriculum and instruction, data use and research, educator effectiveness, and the statewide system of support. And then transitioned to a similar position in the Tennessee Department of Education. For better or for worse, my old boss is now been nominated as the deputy superintendent of public instruction under the Trump administration. And there, the credentialing is the same in the Department of Education, so I oversaw teacher licensure and credentialing as well. And again, the reason I think that's important is because often when I was working with vendors, I felt like they didn't understand what it meant to actually have the roles that you all are sitting in, and some of the barriers that we face and the challenges that we face, which is what made me really excited to be able to come to Parsec, because there's a value of that K-12 lens and experience. So for us, we are the partner success team. We are the outward facing support services to all of you. Once you have decided to partner with us, then our team is the one that really is with you in partnership for the duration of your contract, which we hope is for as long as you are in education, no matter where it is that you are serving. Our education analysts, instead of me introducing you guys, do you just want to kind of step forward, say your name, maybe how long you've worked at Parsec, why you love data?
I'm Adam. I've been with Parsec since June.
Do you love data?
I love data.
Patrick, so I've been with Parsec since October, so I'm the newest one amongst the three of us, so I also love data.
Hey everyone, I'm Jen. I've been with Parsec since July.
And our education data analysts are the ones that, if you have analytics, are the ones that are doing your insights meetings, they're doing deep dives into your data, they're looking at patterns and trends and making meaning of it, and then working with the rest of the team to make sure that we're all on the same page so that we can give you ideas for real, eventually for clarity as we go to market with that. But they really are the ones who are holding that space and understanding at a very deep level your data. Our learning integration specialist, okay, I think
I saw, oh,
no,
I saw Ruben
none of
walk
that.
by. Is he not back there?
They have been the ones manning the tables, overseeing all of the things out in that space. But we have Margaret Emile, Dr. Margaret Emile. She Margaret and Michelle actually joined within the last 6 months, and then Ruben is our one of our newer learning integration specialists. They hold a couple of roles. One is helping to go really deep into Reel. So if you are utilizing Reel, and then eventually as we get to the place of utilizing Academy, they are bringing that lens of the education perspective into that work. So they're helping you think through what qualitative data do you want to really start to dive into, what stories and voices do you need to be elevating, whether it's students, family members, your staff. They're working with the education data analysts to go really deep into the weeds around, once we see those patterns and trends, how can we bring Reel alongside to tell the full, complete story. If you don't have Reel, I know this is a plug, the team will talk about it later, but I just cannot stress enough, you cannot look at quantitative data without also looking at qualitative data. It gets you to the root cause, it's the why behind it. Anything that you look at in improvement science will tell you this. And then Ruben, like I said, he just joined our team recently. He's doing a great job. We're super excited. He and Michelle both have a special education background in lens. Margaret comes from a really strong charter lens, and was a high school English teacher. So they're bringing a pretty robust education experience into the room. Then our other two hires just recently, our team continues to expand. Martha Moore, we are going to be doing some work in Tennessee, so she is our Tennessee-based learning integration specialist. And then Dino just recently joined the team here at our Fresno site. We're super excited to have them. I think they're on week 2. Yes. So they're just jumping in and running like crazy, but we're so excited that they were able to come in and really understand and learn a little bit more about our summit and what really is a core value to us here at Parsec. Then Shay and Kim, Shay, Kim and I all started at the same time into this wild journey of Parsec. It has been quite the year. You all know them very well. They're our very strong partner engagement managers. They have helped create all of the foundations that we have in place in interacting with all of you as partners, setting up our monthly meetings, looking at your goals, tracking your deliverables, helping connect the rest of the team and keeping us all coherent in the way in which we're serving you, thinking outside the box and bringing great ideas that we're missing. Their voices are extremely important in our conversations, and they've just done a phenomenal job with the team. And then I also have in our room our partners with squad formers, who are like the development side, engineering, product management extension of our team. So maybe, do you have the slides for them?
I don't.
No, okay.
So
So
do you guys have
maybe
intro
you guys
slides?
just
No, we don't.
just want to do
Introduce ourselves
a
in
quick
real life.
introduction.
Hi, I'm Melissa. I'm a product manager with Squad Formers, and I'm focusing on Reel, which we'll go into a little bit later. I'll pass it off. And I started in September, so yeah, I'll pass it off to Matt.
Hi everyone, I'm Matt. I know I've met some of you in this room on some of our customer calls. Also a product manager who's originally focused on Reel, but now I'm kind of going to the analytics and clarity side of things. So if any questions around that or feedback you want to share my way, I'm the person.
I think the most of them are in the
gonna say.
hallway. Imogen's in the
Imogen,
back.
do you want to say hi? Yes.
I'm a software engineer with Squad Formers, and I'm working as the tech lead for Reel.
I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot, but
I think you should just go.
okay. I can't stress enough the importance too of their partnership with us and the product managers. You will talk a lot with them. I feel like pride ourselves on hearing from you the things that you want to see, development and evolution of our products and how we can best serve you. And they really are those listening ears alongside of the partner success team that help then drive what our roadmaps are as we continue to improve. So with that, I think my part is done.
You're done.
Right? Yes.
Yes.
All right. And it was wonderful to meet you all. I'm going to go stand in the back and let the team take over and lead us through the rest of it.
Fabulous.
So we have a few things we want to accomplish today. We're going to run through 2 products and 2 products only, because the third product has its own session tomorrow. So, but we're going to run through 2 products today and kind of talk to you about some of the cool new updates, some of the features and things. So I'm very excited to hand it over to our education data analyst team, because you guys are up with analytics first.
Okay. So we are talking about analytics today, and I know there's going to be a lot of exciting things coming later in the year with analytics. I drive Matt crazy, giving him all my ideas. But we're gonna, the three of us are gonna walk through just a couple different things today that we see come out a lot as questions from partners, points to clarify. And yeah, anytime you have feedback on analytics, please do share openly. We are very excited to hear what you think of it. So one thing we wanted to talk through is kind of the difference between the standard and premium dashboards. This is a screenshot there from the Parsec site, because a lot of times folks get confused about why does my number on standard not match on premium? What are the data sources? So you can kind of see here, all of the standard dashboards are built on publicly available data. So there will be no student level data. It's data you can access by downloading on state websites and things. But that is updated based on the availability of state files. So as you can see, CAST data, LPAC, CAST, and then the California school dashboard as well. And then in our premium dashboards, these are based on the data that we received from you all. So we can get into enrollment, local assessments, we can include that student level data for you all, and then they are updated based on your assessment windows and preferences around updates. So yeah, that's kind of the overview. Of course, with standard being publicly available data, feel free to download screenshots, send them wide and far. With premium dashboards, we always urge a little more caution because there is that student level data in there. We want to be very protective of that. We also have listed out here the data files that feed those different dashboards. So for the standard, the different CASP and California school files, and then for premium, the state test piece. And of course, local assessments, SIS data, that all comes from you all. And then just a couple of different use cases why we have both a CASP standard dashboard and a state test premium dashboard. With the standard dashboards, you're really able to do a lot of those comparison pieces. So, rankings with different student groups from the California school dashboard, looking at LPAC performance across different locations. And you can really get into that accountability with the California schools dashboard, which Eugene updated this year, and I think has just so many nice usability upgrades from the year prior. And then within premium, we have your system-wide aggregates, comparisons within your systems, whether that's across grades, schools, particular custom filters that you put on for programs, and of course you can go down to the student level on like those student list pages, and really dig down within those filters. So that's my last slide. Before I hand it over to the next, any questions on kind of the standard versus premium division? You can also post-it note it later if you want.
Post-it. Who's next?
All right. So I want to talk to you all about one of the added pages. When Eugene got a hold of the state test research file, if you know Eugene the way I do, he's very similar in his case that I am. We're kind of like spirit animals in so much that you give us a spreadsheet and we're just going to sit there and play with it until we'll go to sleep and then wake up the next morning and continue working on it. And so when he got the research files for this year, he added a few extra features to the dashboard that some of you might have already come across. And so it starts here, right? This is the screen we're all looking at. We've seen this before. It's the California dashboard, and it gives you that quick high-level overview, right? Like this is, I don't even know what school this is. But you can see each of the indicators with the little color band on the top, and it gives you that high-level overview, right? And then you're used to, finding, all right, let's take a look at ELA, right? So you click on the tile, and it brings up this, right? And it gives you a bit more information, right? This is something we're used to seeing where, okay, we're still in the yellow here. We got our points from standard, distance from standard, as well as whether that was an increase or decrease from the year before. As you know, that increase or decrease determines your color placement, right? It's that combination of your status as well as your points up or down. One thing that I never paid as much attention to, but I'm sure you guys did, is down here. And even though I knew what I was looking at, I remember seeing this for the first time and thinking, what is this equity analysis? What is this equity report? When it's literally called out right there on the state dashboard. Who'd have known? This is just giving you, okay, of of all of my student groups, this one represents all students, right? This is the one that's like aggregated all the way up to the school or district level. This is the umbrella. This drills into all of your student groups now, everybody else, right? What makes up your school system? Because we can see this particular school, when it came to ELA, is sitting at a yellow. But we've actually got 4 different student groups sitting here in the blue and green, which I think we can all agree this is where we're trying to get our students to, right? When we see blues and greens on the dashboard, we're sitting pretty, right? So what we did, what Eugene did, was he added the color matrix, right? So now, instead of this here, now, by the way, this is not the same one because this is from the state dashboard, this is here. So we've taken all of those indicators and all of the student groups and showed you what that placement is. So now we can look not only at ELA, right, but all the rest of them, but now I can see where do these colors exist. Now, in the world of education, right, when we're talking with school leaders, executive cabinet members, things along those lines that live in the world and the space that we're in, we understand this, right? This gives us a really quick snapshot of the mosaic that sort of represents our progress, right, of how we're doing and how we're supporting all of our student groups at once. So yes, this is all well and good. This is what we're used to going to, but now on the Parsec dashboards, you can go to the color matrix here and get that overall snapshot in one nice kind of holistic mosaic, if you will. But we can see here that our 2 blues at this point are Asians and Filipinos. We can see them right here. Now, I'm not seeing the 2 green. This is a scrollable chart on yours. I just grabbed a screenshot of it, you understand. But I could see where my yellows and my red. Okay, where is my red here? Because I'm looking at it at a distance, or at a, is it the homeless?
Yeah.
I couldn't tell if it was homeless or African American. But now I see that in particular, right, not only is my homeless in the red for ELA, but they're also there in math, right? So we can see the, like, quickly at a glance, right? So when we start having these quick conversations, right? When we any conversation worth having in terms of systems improvement has to start at the high level, right? We need to see where we're at first before we know where to drill into. So immediately I can look at this and say, it's like, well, we do have some work to do with our homeless. We do have some work to do in math across all student groups. We got a lot of yellows and oranges here. So that was kind of the rationale behind this, is when we talk about equity, you know, what does this mean? Tell me, when you see these words, equity report, what does that kind of internalize to you? I want somebody to tell me that.
Okay, I have a question. How many of you actually look at that? Oh, good.
Good.
All right, that was way more than I was, yeah, good.
I'm going back to my teacher wait time. So when you see this, what are we trying to communicate here on this equity report?
For me, when I look at that, I'm looking at, I want to know what student groups are performing below the average and what students are performing above the average. I mean, we dig a little deeper than that too. We look at those just to see kind of within that group even where they fall, but that's just a quick way to see overall where student groups leaning in relation to your overall outcome.
Right. And the growth, you know, what trajectory is each of those groups on?
Mm-hmm.
Because they don't have to be at the highest level of proficiency, but as long as they're making forward progress with the right amounts, they're making them so their way into those green and blue color codes. So it just shows trends and direction.
Right, and more importantly, it's showing us where do we have opportunities for growth, and where have we shown opportunities of growth, right? Where is it, like, if, again, just on a quick glance, because this is what it is, high level, where's the strong suit of this particular school district? Where are they doing quite well at?
Suspension rate?
Suspension rates, right? Yeah, sorry if it's a little blurry, but that last one, SUSP, suspension rates, right? So they're doing some good work, mostly, but we do see some yellow, right? From yellow to blue, how many colors do they need to get to catch up? 2, right? They got to jump, you go from green. So it looks like, again, if I were now on the, like, at the district level now, and I'm working in the parent community kind of outreach or whatnot. Okay, I'm looking at student service and it's like, okay, how are we gonna keep these ones in the blue while moving these yellows perhaps to the greens for next year, right? And it just opens up that kind of more high-level conversation about how are we serving our student groups. So what we've done is on the analysis page, and I'll wrap it up with this, we've included a rankings page that shows you how many of our student groups, of all student groups that get a color, right? Because not every student group will. It's going to be different, right? If you don't have 30 students in that student group, they don't get a color. So, of all the students that do get a color, how are we serving them? Are we serving them at the green and blue level? And so in this case, we're just doing a simple count, right? This is nothing official. It's not like an accountability metric that is reported anywhere here, right? But it's certainly good to know that of all of our student groups across these indicators, we're at just about 39%, which by the way, statewide to California, when you look at every student group in California, we're only sitting at about 27%. Somewhere's in that range in terms of in the blue and the green, right? So that adds additional context. When we see this kind of myriad of yellow and oranges, it might even be a little deflating at the time, but when you come into the dashboard and you can go to the ranking, right, it's another way of looking at how are we compared against the schools, because you'll see it's a little column that says BG%, blue-green percent, is to really understand how are we faring against, in this case, the state, when we can certainly say that for this district, across all the board, when you synthesize every single metric or indicator across every single student group, minus the all students, by the way, almost 39% of them are at that blue-green, when about the state it's about 27. So that's just one of the pieces there that's just gonna add an additional lens to your analysis as you're digging into your own data, and could very well create a very good starting point for conversation amongst your site leaders as to where do we dig into next? Where do we keep the momentum, like in the case of suspension rates, okay? But looking at chronic absenteeism, we've only got one group, the Asian group, that's right here in the green. Everybody else is yellow. Maybe that's the piece that we start going after next, right? Oh, that was it for me. Any questions on that before I hand it off to my man, Patrick?
All right, you're up. So the report I'm going to talk about isn't necessarily a new one, but it's one that we feel is sometimes underutilized by our partners. So just to get an understanding of the room here, how many people in here are with a charter school or charter network? So quite a few of you. I mentioned that because the contiguous enrollment reports are particularly useful during charter renewal. If you haven't looked at them yet, I really encourage you to after we go over it today. But even if you're not in a charter school, it's a really effective way to look at your school system. So just to let you guys know where they exist, if you haven't seen them yet, they're part of the premium dashboards, and you can find it under the state test dashboard under premium, under contiguous enrollment, or the percent towards proficient dashboard as well. So what they do is they correlate student levels of achievement, so either distance from standard or percent towards proficient. They correlate that with length of enrollment in your system. So check for understanding a little bit. How would you want that correlation to go? So length of enrollment and student achievement.
The longer they're enrolled, the better they do.
Yeah, that's what you would hope to see, right? So, which is what I have on the next slide. So what you would hope to see, of course, is the more time they spend in your system, the higher they are in achievement level, right? So either the distance from standard is more positive or less negative in some cases, or the percent towards proficient is a higher number, right? So this is what it looks like if you haven't played around with it. So you have enrollment length on the x-axis, and then in this particular screenshot is the distance from standard in the y-axis. And then the orange line is the N size for students in each enrollment length cohort. Okay, so that was a lot of words I just said. So I'll say it one more time. So looking at this graph, the blue bars represent distance from standard in this screenshot. And in this case, it's positive. So they have this school-wide screenshot that has a positive distance from standard. And then the orange line that you see in the dots, that's how many students have been enrolled for 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, all up to 10 years. Right? So you'll notice what happens, and this is true for pretty much every time I've looked at this for a partner, what's happening to the cohort size as it goes to the right there? Yeah, it shrinks, right? Eventually you get to these really small cohorts with maybe like 1 or 2 students, and you have to consider that when you're looking at this data, right? So as we've already said, if your system is effective, your school or your whatever level you're looking at is effective, we would see a positive correlation between length of enrollment and student achievement. So again, this is a really cool thing to look at. And just like all of our reports, it is filterable for student groups. So you can look at a particular race or ethnicity group, or you can look at English learners or whatever you want. So you can filter it, it's dynamic. And I have a couple tips for using it here. So if you haven't dove into it yet. By default, it does include null enrollment lengths. So just a tip, you'll want to turn that off just to get a more accurate idea on this, because the null one will be like at the beginning. So, yep, go ahead, Adam.
Can you explain what the null means?
Yeah, so null enrollment links means students that we just don't have enrollment length data for, right? So maybe they came in after the CalPad snapshot, and that's why we don't have that data. So anything to add about that? Okay. So yeah, turn that off. And then if there's enrollment links with really small in sizes, like I said, there's like 1 or 2 students, you'll probably want to exclude those too. So like I mentioned, it's a dynamic graph though, so you can turn things on and off and get it to really tell a story that's what you feel is the most accurate, right? The other thing I'll say is, I'm not going to go into this metric right now, but there's 2 different views. There's distance from standard, which we're all familiar with, but then there's percent towards proficient. Does anybody, how many people in here have used that percent towards proficient metric, or you're familiar with it? It's not too many. So next time you have an insights meeting with your educational analyst, ask us about it if we don't cover it, because it's a really interesting alternative way to look at student achievement that basically places a higher emphasis on students who have not yet met standard. So it's a little bit more of I would consider like an accurate picture of student progress. So sometimes distance from standard and percent towards proficient tell very different stories, and it has a lot of implications on your student achievement. So just to close this up, I would encourage you to use both of those views if you have this dashboard, because again, they kind of tell a more holistic picture. So any questions about that? Yeah.
So when this data is captured, what's the time period within the school year that it's captured, and what's the frequency of updates for this data piece?
So great question. So the data is all on this dashboard is based on the CalPad snapshot day, right?
Oh.
So it's just that one day. It's not going to get updated throughout the year.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
I think that's
perfect.
the question, right?
Thank
Okay.
you.
Yep.
I'm on the continuous enrollment. I'm looking for it. By default, it's the distance from standard. Am I missing something for getting to the percent?
So are you looking at the state test dashboard?
Yes.
So the state test dashboard, so it exists in 2 different places. That one only has distance from standard.
Okay.
Do you see the dashboard that says percent towards proficient on it? If you scroll down a little bit.
I do. Okay.
So that's where both of them together live. So you'll have the DFS version and the BTP one.
Thank you.
Other questions? All right, thank you. We'll move on. I was going next.
All right. We're going to stop with analytics now and move over to real. Because we want to give you enough bite sizes to take home. But if you have more questions, please always ask in your insights meetings. We are so happy to explain dashboards to you. But we know it can be a lot, so we're just going to give you a little today. Melissa, you are up next, my dear.
Thank you, Matt. I'm going to tag team. All right. Okay. We're going to go through Parsec Real. And so Matt and I are actually going to tag team it. He was the product manager on it for the last year-ish.
10, 11 months.
Yeah, we'll say a year. I just transitioned to taking over Real about 3 weeks ago, so we're going to do this together.
Yeah, just to start off, when talking about Real, I always think it's important to kind of level set like what problems we're actually trying to solve here and for whom. So we have Todd Lyle here, and some of you might know Todd. Todd might even be here, I don't know. He's the superintendent of Madeira Unified. His chief goal is student achievement. He discovers that chronic absenteeism is a major issue in his district using analytics. But he wants to understand why. So what is his current process? So it usually revolves around, okay, we gotta collect some feedback, we gotta do some planning, I gotta look at the calendar, when are we gonna do it? That takes a lot of effort and work. Then he has to usually create some feedback form. There's a lot of different tools that are out there. He sends it out to people. People start submitting their stuff in. He can get hundreds, thousands of responses back to these. He then has to analyze them one by one, create some sort of summarization, send it out to people. and then do that whole communication. That is a lot of time and effort that goes into doing that one process. And go to the next slide. Oftentimes that's kind of discouraging to actually do some of those steps. So then the people who are hopefully sending these feedback and submissions in to collect feedback, to make change, none of this stuff really happens because the process is just so time consuming. I guess kind of like disheartens people to actually want to do it. So this is kind of the 4 stages of qualifying for a survey. You see people just slowly becoming depressed going through the whole process. So all these voices aren't being heard. Schools are slow to learn and improve at scale, and change kind of becomes something to talk about. But we think we can do this better. So with using Real, we aim to empower our partners to proactively, keyword proactively, engage in continuous learning to achieve their goals and drive change without all the manual work in the process of doing it. So like going through all those submissions and sending stuff out, even though that can be very time consuming, might discourage you to want to do that. So we're constantly trying to improve Real so we can take that manual work out of it, so you can get the insights as quickly as possible, so you can learn as quickly as possible, so you can start to make those changes where you're at. So if you want, there's a QR code, you can pull this up and you can go through the actual submission flow and answer some questions selfishly that will give us some insights about Real. So there's an inside job I'm trying to do here. You can pull it up and we can go to the next slide so people are answering it as well.
Just want to be able to show you the experience on being on the other side of it and responding to the questions.
And a big thing with this that we kind of learned is like usually when people are doing surveys, they can be like 25 questions long. It's very time consuming. A lot of times it's like Likert scales and rate this thing 1 through 10. Like trying to get people's like authentic voices in the process kind of gets lost because it's just like putting numbers in. So a big thing that we really wanted to do with Real is make, when you go through that submission process, super quick and easy. You can do video submissions, audio submissions, or text submissions. We limit the questions to just a couple so people can get through it really fast. So you can just make that whole process much easier for people. We've heard feedback from people who go through the submission process. It's just more enjoyable. It's a lot easier to do than like, oh, shoot, I gotta do 25 questions and burn through this if I even finish it in the first place. And even when they do, when people do send them in, this is a Reel that we actually did internally that that Baum sent us yesterday to us. You can see all these submissions coming in. When the submissions do come in, we do a transcript so you can read all the ones that are coming in. We also we do a sentiment analysis to rate things either being negative or positive, everything in between. Maybe we can show this afterwards as well, but we also do a quick summary where we will summarize everything that happened in the Reel itself. Probably go to the one that's completed right below it.
Go to one of the ones I was
We can do that one as well, yeah. So we do get the summary. Once again, we know that like, hey, sometimes we see these Reels that come in that have like 6,000, 8,000 submissions. That's a lot of things to go through one by one. So we've kind of done some work to take that all off your plate. So when you come in here per question, we'll do a summarization of what was found. We'll do a sentiment analysis based off like the feedback that was heard, as well as if you have enough submissions come in, we'll do a theming of it. We'll pull out kind of the key topics, key themes that were discovered in there as well. So we'll do all that work for you. You can come in here and just quickly learn as much as possible. And I know also, if you scroll up real quick to the top again, if you click on communication, we know that follow-up is really important as well. So we also created an email template for you to just quickly download and grab and send out to your community to kind of share what was learned as well. As mentioned before, we're constantly learning from all of you. So if you have any feedback you want to share our way to constantly improve this product, we're constantly iterating it, please do.
Awesome, thanks Matt. So I'll take it over from here, and we wanted to highlight a new feature that we actually added recently. So if I go back, we now have this concept of recurring reels. So let's say there's a goal or there's an objective that you're trying to really understand, whether your students feel safer over time, or maybe you have questions that you ask every single month and you want to see how those trend over time. We've now made it really easy that when you're actually creating a reel, you can choose whether you want it to be recurring or just a single one-off. So the recurring will actually create with the same questions that reel over, every week or every month or every year for you, and automatically schedule them and send you reminders that those have been sent out. And what I wanted to show was we have this new concept of trend analysis as well. So if I go back, you'll see at the top here, this is how you can actually view your recurring reels. And so they'll be bucketed into those, this is all demo data, but they'll be bucketed into all of those recurring reels. So I'll go into demo trends. And you can see all of them that have been scheduled. And if we go in, you can go into one like we just did and see the individual submissions. But now we have this new concept called trends. And so now you can actually track the submissions and the response and the actual trends across all of those over time to see, are you actually making an impact? Are you actually making a change? So if I click on trends, any question that you've asked multiple times, we will do a trend analysis. And this is just the beginning of it, and we'll start to add more analysis as time goes on to this. So right now we have sentiment over time. So you can see you've asked this question 4 times. Here it actually will tell you over time how the sentiment has changed. So you can see the percentage of respondents and their sentiment. You can also see it in an area chart if you want to see just overall how the sentiment has changed. This is for some visually easier. You could download these charts too if you want to be able to share them with your peers and with the team. And so yeah, that's just a quick demo of recurring reels. Anyone have questions before we move forward? All right. So let's go back to the
Can I just jump in?
yeah.
So when the team was first showing me this, like when you're creating your enrollment bundle and you're looking for your leading indicators, the setting up reels and collecting that qualitative feedback on a quarterly basis or a monthly basis that you can then present to your board at the mid-year update alongside of your data is huge, because then you're telling the full data narrative story. So like at your mid-year update, if there were things that were fantastic, but then you want to pair it with the experience of the students or the staff would be a great example. Or maybe it didn't turn out how you thought, and you're now having to report that to the board, but you can pair it with, we've already proactively reached out to our students and our staff, this is what they're saying, and these are our next steps to make sure that we're rectifying the situation. So there's a number, I think, of really practical, immediate use cases to bring this alongside of the work that you already have in place that you're doing, that maybe you don't have another means, or it would live in a Google form, and then you're spending all the time to try to take care of that yourself. We're just trying to connect the dots of the places where it come alive.
I'm assuming the recurring reel has the same themes, highlights, all of those exist for the individual, but then it's going to give you the trends over time.
Exactly. Yep. So you can go into the individual for that week that you sent it out for each one, but you'll also start to be able to track those trends over the course of the same questions you've asked over time.
Is there a process within Parsec or a system that's in place to assist with the creation of the actual questions pending the topics?
Yeah, so we didn't, I guess, show the creation side of things, but actually.
No, just in general, if somebody sets student voice with, if it's academic, teachers to students, so there's question types that they can pull from.
We do have question bank right now, but that's actually something that we're working towards to be able to make it even easier to understand what are those best practices and the use cases so that you don't have to be an expert to be able to go and create that.
Okay. Yeah.
And to add on to Melissa's point, we also have our LISs, so they'll walk you through your questions, how to create them, they'll help you set them up, so they walk you through the whole entire process.
Yeah,
I didn't want to call you out Melissa, but Melissa's experienced that. So yeah.
But please talk to us, because as we think through how we want to create that experience, so when we're generating questions, it's actually matching our expectations. Please talk to us, because we would like to test that out with you to make sure, oh yeah, that hit the mark, or that was terrible. Please divert and go into a different
Because the
direction.
consistency with the questions is going to lead to the consistency of the
100%.
conversation.
Yes.
And I want to underscore what Shay just said. Please reach out to your LIS as you're developing questions, because I think we automatically default, if I look at the California Healthy Kids Survey, it is for students written in adult language. And we're trying not to do that. We're actually trying to get to the experience of the kids, and so it needs to be written in language that's going to resonate with the students, which is why I think we're seeing such high participation rates.
when it does go out. One is the feel, it doesn't feel like a survey, it feels like a focus group or an empathy interview. But two, we're very purposeful in making sure that that language is something that's going to appeal to the student.
Yes. And that leads us into the next slide, which is a good segue. We did this. So, what are we doing when we're exploring the future of Reel, right? We're just getting started with it. So, our goal is to improve the quality and the usability of the feedback. So, I've even learned so much today in these sessions and how important, as Jamil says, like the street data is, right? I actually learned that term today. And ultimately, Reel is what you're going to use to get that data, that street data. And so we understand that you might not be a customer research expert or a data scientist, and you don't know how to craft those questions to get that high quality level feedback. And so there's kind of 3 pieces of Reel that we want to focus on this year, and figure out ways that we can improve it to make your life easier, but also to get that high quality feedback that you can actually use to make changes and drive decisions. So there's 3 pieces of this. There's the creation side of, okay, I need to go actually create this Reel. What should the questions look like? Generally, I think most people have a goal in mind or an objective or a learning. You know what you're trying to learn out of it. And so we want to explore this concept of actually allowing you to use like AI to generate the question. So maybe you put in your goal, and maybe you put in your audience that you want to send this Reel to. And then we can actually have AI assist you in that and work together with you to take some of that time out of it, but also help you have that kind of like best in practice questions. So that's one thing we're gonna be kind of exploring this year. Also, just as I mentioned, the goal objective driven experience, and then templates is kind of what you were saying. Is I'm sure you all want to know what are questions other schools are asking. And so as we start to get this data, we can really figure out what are those important topics and goals, and then create templates based off of them as well. On the submission side, so actually that voice app that you opened up, a few things that we are exploring again is how do students feel about having more of a conversation with AI? They might not know it's AI, but instead of it just being this, format of question, answer that we're all used to, challenging that and making it feel more like a conversation for the person responding. And AI is very good at understanding if you tell it its goal, it's going to be able to ask those questions and actually understand the tone and the interests of the person responding and talk to them in a way that will get them to open up and have that conversation. So that's another thing that we're kind of exploring.
And just sorry, one thing to say, because sometimes we'll get responses back, like, how are you feeling today? And they'll just say something simple like, okay. We want to then create an experience where we can do a follow-up question of why? Why are you feeling okay? Start to dig in more so you can start getting better and better feedback and more insights. Just around that.
Yes, thanks for adding that. And then on the consumption side, so the actual dashboard you saw where you can see the summary and the key topics, right now we have a lot of it is focused on sentiment, and we understand that not every single question you ask can be analyzed with sentiment. So we're exploring other ways that we can analyze that data. So maybe keywords and topics, or another thing we've realized is you might have a goal, but through the feedback you actually might learn something that wasn't even associated to that goal that you're like, that's interesting, I want to dig in more to that. So being able to have something in the summary that even pulls that out so that you can highlight that and maybe create another Reel to understand a little bit more there. And then with the goal objective level, something again we're exploring, and we need feedback from all of you to understand which direction we should be heading in with some of these ideas, is similar to the trend analysis. You can have a goal where you ask multiple different questions in Reels, and we can actually start to analyze across all of those the overall themes and trends going on within those goals and objectives. So yeah, again, these are all concepts that we're exploring to make sure that we are improving the quality and the usability of this feedback for all of you. And please book a session with me if you are interested in learning about any of this or have ideas on it. My name's Melissa again, and We work super closely with all of the software engineers, we have a designer, and we want to make this the best experience for all of you. So yeah, feel free, that's my Calendly link if you want to scan it, and we'd love to chat with all of you because, as Rachel mentioned, we want to build something for educators, and I want to know what are your pain points and how can we solve them. All right.
Yeah, I think I'm the de facto over here, so. Unless you want to be the de facto. Okay, all right. Okay, guys, well, the reason we really wanted to focus on some of these updates and everything for you guys today is obviously we have a theme for this summit, right? We are measuring what we value, and we've been talking about it all day, and you've been all up in it. And one of the questions that Seyi and I get a lot as partner engagement managers is, what are other schools doing? Well, I think that I get that every single time I hop on a meeting. And it doesn't matter what school I'm with, it's, hey, what are other schools doing? How are they doing this? And here's our challenge. So we wanted you to kind of first have an opportunity to hear some clarifications around questions we've frequently heard from you. But the rest of this time that we're gonna use here, we've got about a little over 20 minutes left here. We actually wanna give you an opportunity to engage with us and with each other to thought share and dialogue around some of the challenges that each of you are using your data sources to solve. Whether that's a Parsec product or not, obviously I advocate for Parsec, but whether it's us or not, you guys are all doing really amazing things, and maybe you just don't know that the other person's doing it. So we're gonna give you a chance to talk about it now, which means that you now have to do that participating thing we talked about. But we're gonna tell you how we're gonna do that. So for that, if you guys haven't seen this yet, this is kind of our big thing. We like to say this a lot, and I'm gonna be honest with you, I was recently challenged on this about other aspects of my life, and I was like, I say this all the time, and then I thought, oh, and I've only ever applied it to business. But recently someone challenged me to start thinking about my whole life this way, and I'll let you know where we get with that. But where we are right now is every system is perfectly designed to achieve exactly the results it gets. Sometimes that can be a hard thing to face, right, when we think about it, because we think about all the great things we're doing. There might be some areas for improvement, but like, how bad can we actually be doing, right? And when we get into this process of self-reflection, it leads us kind of down a path that can be a little painful, but also purging, and on the other side can lead to really great innovation and inventiveness. I'm totally going to steal a movie line quote, and the historical accuracy on this I'm not going to advocate for because I have no idea. But I remember watching a movie and I was listening to this, and they were talking about failing. And they said, did you know that to create the light bulb, Franklin had to fail 99 times? And I was like, I don't know if this is historically accurate, but I thought about it and I went, wait a minute, but he succeeded once. Every time we fail, we learn something new. Every time we don't do it right, we learn something new. We're eventually gonna get to a point where we found a rhythm where we're doing it really great, and then we can move on to improving the other areas. But to do that, we first have to face the challenge that we're facing right now and identify that challenge. So part of the complication is identifying the challenge you're facing. And the second part of that complication is figuring out what the root cause of that challenge really is. Because as we've talked about today, sometimes the analytics and sometimes even real, we have a goal in mind, but something else pops up. If you guys ever talk to a friend of ours, Tim Warner at Alder Grove, he will tell you that he sent out a community engagement reel and asked questions of students about, totally focused on how students felt about their community that they were living in and what the school might be able to do to help them. Would you like to know what he got back? Half of them had nothing to do with the actual external school community, which is what he thought he had made clear was the goal. Instead, what it turned out was there was a lot of mental health problems that the students were facing. Things like, I struggle coming to school because teachers actually talk to me, and I don't know how to talk to an adult. And he went, okay, well that was not what I was expecting to receive at all. He also got a group of students, and his Native American students, who identified that they really needed a curriculum they could relate to. And he went, what do you mean you can't relate to the curriculum? And they're like, our community is underserved in your school. There's nothing for me here. So they've changed a lot about how they're doing school by finding root causes and problems they didn't even know existed. They knew their students weren't interacting in the community the way they felt was healthy. Their climate checks were already reflecting that in the surveys they were doing, but the actual root cause they didn't know. So when we have tools to support the work, right, we can do the work and make the lift a little bit easier. That leads us to you guys having dialogue here. So we created an activity, and Miss Shay's gonna lead you through it.
So we have a great fun activity. You guys are gonna first introduce yourselves to each other. So you're gonna pair up, pick someone. You're gonna pick a topic, which I have on the next slide, and then discuss the goal that you're trying to achieve. And then you're going to identify the challenges to achieving that goal by digging deeper. And Kim, we're gonna demo what you guys are gonna do. So you're gonna ask why 5 times. So the question is, Kim, toilet paper, do you go under or over?
Gotta go over.
Why?
Physics.
Why?
Apples?
Why?
No idea.
You say why? You say apples? So you're gonna
There's
ask
something about
apples.
Newton's law, right? I am clearly not the engineer in this room, peeps.
So the activity is for you to dig deeper, right? And then you're gonna look at what data you have, both qualitative and quantitative, that'll help you measure understanding the goal. And then you guys can either share with your table or we'll pick a volunteer to share what you guys talked about. So we'll give you guys.
And for those who are not in tables or you're kind of like squishing it at tables, if you want to create smaller groups, that's fine. We are actually going to give you 10 full minutes for this because we did good on our presentations. So you get 10 full minutes for this. Go ahead and give them the topics. We've got an assortment of topics that you don't have to stick to these though, guys. These are just frequent ones that we've heard from partners are points of challenge sometimes. These student groups or things that they're facing. So if you don't see one you're in love with, it's okay to pick a different one. You're just gonna share out about it later. Yeah. All right?
And we'll come back at 4.
Yeah, 4:06.
Or 6. Okay.
No, Lucy, you gotta be in a group.
I was literally in the session when they were like,
Wait, what was the purpose of that session?
It was actually really interesting. No, it was they were helping me write down my tests. And then like gave them something that and then after we did that, she said, actually like choose those students, and out of all of those students were considered successful and those were
But I was like, I got second name, and I was like, I don't know where to go from here. Then I couldn't remember his name. All I could remember is here's what you learned. He's not good at science. I said an apple. Tree. I didn't have enough about doing this. No, we're not. I responded with an apple. Clearly, I needed more of this.
I mean, I would probably choose like
Is this
Kim has no
Yeah, you
with the
These are the best.
I told you it's not as sweet as like
on the back
So it's like fine.
Yeah, I think
Yes.
Okay, friends, if you can bring it all back together, find a good stopping spot, bring it back. All right. We're gonna do some share outs because I only got to sit here for like a second, but there was some really great stuff happening over here. So we're gonna do a few share outs. I wanna know, what's guys going on? What'd you learn about? Okay, I'm gonna challenge you now. I'm gonna make this harder. Don't get to tell me about you and your system. I wanna hear about the person you talked to or your table group. So share out from them what you learned about the conversation. How's that sound? Who's gonna be my brave soul? Huh?
Then I have to go. So.
There you go. All right.
So Melissa shared about a challenge with building data culture among the network of charter school sites that she runs, and kind of the balance of being reliant on quantitative data and also thinking about how do we incorporate more qualitative measures as part of the system, and some insights about opportunities to include more student voice or student, like we'll do kind of parent-family engagement and maybe leave out the students in that opportunity. And if there's anything else.
I know you guys have a unique problem in how spread out you are, and so really getting that engagement deeply. But I have to commend you for the heroic efforts you have put in place to do this. Like you looked at the mountain and went, all right, let's just start digging. So nice. Okay, anyone else want to share? Oh, go ahead.
Melissa, do you mind sharing about your sessions that you've been doing?
Yeah. So one thing about our program is that we're non-classroom based, but we're also parent choice, parent driven. So all of our kids can use a different different things, and so it's hard to like look at the data that way. But one thing about us, because we're non-classroom based and students are at home, one thing we struggle with is for them to feel a sense of belonging to the bigger part, the bigger school. And then just data in general, because of the nature of our school, it's hard to get them excited. They don't come to a big multi-purpose room and we share these things and whatever. But my accountability coordinator and I started 2 years ago now, I can't believe it's been 2 years, to really try and build the data culture. As a charter school, we are very reliant on our existence because of our data. Whether we like it or not, whatever our opinions are, we do rely on that. And so we started building a data culture. We started with staff, then we went to our governing boards, then we went to our parent councils, and like DLAC, all the people, and then we developed last spring a dashboard information series where we did a series of informational sessions, not just about the dashboard, but how the dashboard affects charter schools in particular. Because then we could bring it back. We used our own data, so it's our own, they're seeing their own outcomes up there, and it was the most highly attended sessions we've ever had in the assessment and accountability team. Not everyone's favorite. But now in part 2, we have our Parsec dashboard publicly available. So now our next step is to say, ever curious about how we're doing? We have this available, this great tool, and now we're going to show just not our staff, our family, but now I want actually students to come in. It was great to hear from students, and it was a good reminder that don't leave them out, market to them too. They're feeding this information, and so our step 2 is going to be how Parsec plays into that as well.
Thank you. All right, who's got something cool too that you want to share out? You all have cool things. I eavesdropped on a lot of you. Come on.
I mean, I'll share the topic that is at the heart for me is trying to really pinpoint data that's going to help to support teacher professional development, learning opportunities. That's a big part of my role, is to provide those opportunities, and always trying to find the data that helps to support whether it's making an impact or not. Because when you look at big broad SBAC and iReady data, it's just so general, and to be able to say like this is actually making an impact in a particular subgroup of teachers who are going through some sort of professional learning. So that's my big grapple, and that's where I'm trying to think more and more around how the dashboard piece, as well as how I can use Real to try to get more and more of that information. Yeah, and I am.
What system are you from?
Central Unified.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
was going to talk to you after.
Yes! Because Tammy and I are doing a cool thing.
Okay.
So this is going to be exciting. Also, you two need to be friends because professional development was both of your themes. So make a network there. Because I think that would be good for you. But something that is cool, I think, that you're exploring there is this concept we were talking about, is this investment in professional hours, right? That we make in the adults. We ask these questions for the kids, right? Because we all love the kids, right? Who turn into lovely adults. And we love them too. But are we professionally equipping our adults to be ready to handle the changes that answer the challenges that arise when we start to dig into the questions, right? So this was a really great, I really love that you brought this question up. We were talking about it. And if you were in Jamila Dugan's session with me this morning, she said something that this has been my dwelling place today. She said, I know this session will have almost no impact on you. And if you go with just one thing from today and walk away with it, that's a success. But the problem is, if you don't attend like 1 million more hours of training sessions like this to reinforce the learning and to increase the depth of knowledge, it means nothing that you came today. And when she said that, that hit me. I'm in there just supposed to be making sure the computer doesn't crash. And all I could think was, Dr. Dugan, you hit me. Like, that was this morning's takeaway for me from her session. Because all I could think was, you are so right in the investment of hours we have to put in to make sure that before we tackle the challenges for these students, our adults are ready to help tackle them as well.
It's almost like the thousands of hours we have spent over decades and decades of time what have we done 10,000 times singularly, right, as a reference to something else, that we have data to prove that has made changes.
Yeah, yeah.
Classroom environment, instruction, assessments, you name it.
Yeah.
And those are the things, unless we're closely looking at, our practices are changing in small measurable ways.
Yeah. I will say the cool part about what Central's doing, I'm going to shout them out here, is Tammy, the one I work with most directly, actually asked if we could build a custom filter for an investment in professional development they've been doing with a cluster of a few teachers. And they have a cohort of teachers now that is in the second year of this super intense professional development. And we applied this filter to track student outcomes from this intense professional development that is going on for just this small group of teachers who said, I'm here, pick me, I will do intense PD to better support my students so we can identify issues and really try to correct whatever problem this is. As we continue down this rabbit hole, I want to be part of it. And I think it is one of the coolest things I've ever been asked to be a part of. And I was really excited when it was like, well, can we make a custom filter? I'm like, well, first I need an engineer because I have no idea what that looks like. Kim's brain says, yes, we can. My engineers look at me and go, where's the data coming from? So all that to say, I'm not selling that to you because my engineers will kill me. But if it's something you wanted to pursue, have a chat. Like, let's talk about, okay, where's the data coming from? Is there an expense here? How hard does this lift? What's it really look like? But if it's something you wanted to do, if that's the kind of data you want to pursue, like, let's have a conversation. There's no harm, no foul in that, right? So cool things that are going on in other places. Anybody else got a cool thing they want to share out?
One of the things that we brought up at our table was that Parsec Real has like different modalities of being able to obtain it, and one of the things we wanted to know is like how could we best be able to serve students who may need more accessibility to be able to provide input for things. And so like talkers or even like the visual aid supports.
Yeah, and that's actually, so I love the fact that Ruben has come onto our team, him and Michelle, because both of them joining our team bring this special education IEP background with them, right? With these, how do we interact with things like Real? How are these students interacting with it? And what's been great about the conversations we've been having with them is the video is a really big step forward, right? Because students like that can just, or audio, can just speak straight to it. Okay, but now there's another question that they've raised that I think is a really cool one, and poor Matt and Melissa are already having to like explore what this looks like. But it is, okay, but if those kids have to verbalize back, how are they reading the question off of Real, right? So right now, teachers are helping them. The teacher reads the question out loud to the student, and then the student can respond, which is still way better than asking a student to give us a 1 or a 5 when they're still trying to figure out what that question means. But what does that look like in the future? And these are great questions. We are exploring them, and it's really because of these different lenses that you guys bring and our team members bring. So always bubble those up. Obviously, like I said, we're not 100% on that one yet. We've got some things we want to do, but the fact that students can respond verbally now or through text. We have some students who are like very self-conscious. They're aware of the way the video looks. They don't want to be a part of that. They can do the text. It makes them more comfortable. With that, we try to be as adaptive as possible. So, anyone else? Thank you. I'm really glad that you time kept for me. Good, because this is my last point. Some of you said it in your table groups. None of you brought it up in your share out, which made me giggle. But some of you said it's interesting, the theme that we keep talking about, slowing down and taking time. This is something that I feel, I don't know if you walk away, how many takeaways you walk away with. That's not my research field. But what I know is this. If you walk away with one thing, I hope you walk away with this. You need to give yourself a chance. You can't just make decisions, address challenges, make changes, and then expect an outcome in 3 months and then pivot again. First off, it's going to wear you guys out. It's going to wear your staff out. The PD is never going to be effective enough to actually make sure that real growth or change occurs. This J-curve is something that businesses use to test their theory. And what I find interesting is that y'all know the LCAP was designed in 3-year cycles. Have you ever wondered why it's a 3-year cycle with check-ins? case you're wondering, it's to give you guys a chance to fall below and have a little challenge and check to see what's really going on. Because the moment you make a decision to change, there is going to be some resistance, there's going to be some questioning, there's going to be things that go on. And if you stay down here, clearly this is not the path to continue on. But if you move up and you start and you get a change in that dip, give it time to grow. Give it enough time to make the changes actually effective, right? If we continue to just be like on a yearly cycle, it's never going to do anything. Last story, because I'm a story person. When I worked in charter system for 8 years, I believe in better communication. That's actually my background, is communication. I have a journalism degree, a writing degree in English. I like communication. But when I went into the system that I was working with for this charter network, they were still communicating with letters written to home, mass mailers. How many of those mailers came back to me? A lot. 50% of those home sent letters would come back to me every mailing. It drove me crazy that they would just not be delivered. That meant that 50% of my parents, my students, whatever, had no idea of upcoming trainings, opportunities, things like that. They didn't know it was occurring. So I made a change. I digitalized them. I implemented Parent Square. And if you've ever done this, that first year, I felt like the world's worst person. I had taken away their blanket, which was the letter that they could hold in their hand, because now they couldn't hold it in their hand. It was on their phone or maybe in their email, and we had to talk about what it looked like to maybe switch to a push notification or a text message versus an email that they clearly weren't going to read. It was an epic fail by all standards in that first year. But by that second year, we were up the scale and doing well. So give yourself a chance to make the change. 2 years can be a big difference, even though it seems like a long timeline. That's all the time we have today, friends. But if you have questions, comments, or concerns, we're all here, and we would be happy to talk to you about it. And if you have sticky notes, please put them on our boards. We would love your suggestions, comments, and concerns.
Thank you.
Thank you.